Imagine an empire on the edge of collapse. Soldiers trapped. No radio. No phone. No way to call for help. Their only hope isn't a general, or a spy, or a machine. It's a bird. A bird you probably ignored this morning on your way to work. A bird you've maybe even called a rat with wings. But here's the fact that should stop you cold. For over 3,000 years, that same bird carried the fate of kings, armies, and entire civilizations on its back. It has saved more human lives in wartime than almost any other animal on Earth. One of them was even given a medal for valor. So how does an animal go from war hero to pest? From a creature worth a king's ransom to a bird people pay exterminators to remove? Something happened between then and now. Something we forgot on purpose. Stick around, because by the end of this, you will never look at a pigeon the same way again. Picture a city square. Gray feathers, bobbing heads, a slightly unsettling stare. Somebody mutters, "Rat with wings," and shoos it off a park bench. That's the pigeon most of us know. Background noise. An inconvenience. Something you step around, not something you think about. But here's the curiosity gap worth sitting with. Nothing about that image is accurate to what this bird actually is. The pigeon you're picturing is, biologically, the same species that once outran cavalry, crossed oceans navies couldn't cross fast enough, and delivered news that changed the outcome of wars. Same bird, same brain, same instincts. We didn't domesticate a different animal for greatness. This is that animal, still here, still capable of everything it always was. We just stopped asking it to. So, the real question isn't, why are pigeons everywhere? It's, why did we forget what this bird was for? To answer that, we have to go back. Long before cities. Long before rooftops and park benches. Back to where this story actually starts. And it starts somewhere you'd never expect. Strip away the city. Strip away the noise. Go back roughly 10,000 years to the cliffs and rocky coastlines of the Mediterranean, the Middle East, and parts of North Africa. There, on ledges and in caves, lived the rock dove, Columba livia. Not a park bird, a cliff bird, built for one specific skill above all others, finding its way home across long distances, over unfamiliar land, without getting lost. That instinct wasn't an accident. In the wild, a rock dove's nest ledge is its only safety from predators. Wander too far while foraging, and if you can't find your way back before dark, you're finished. So, evolution built these birds an internal compass more precise than almost anything else in the animal kingdom. Sensitivity to the Earth's magnetic field, memory for landmarks, and an ability to orient using the position of the sun. Humans noticed. The earliest evidence of people keeping pigeons stretches back roughly 5,000 years to Mesopotamia and ancient Egypt. Clay tablets and tomb paintings show dovecots, small stone towers built specifically to house these birds. At first, it was simple. Pigeons meant food, and their droppings made excellent fertilizer for crops along the Nile and the Tigris-Euphrates. But somewhere in those dovecots, someone made an observation that would change everything. Take a pigeon far from home. Release it. It doesn't panic. It doesn't wander. It flies straight back. That single, quiet discovery, repeated by farmers and priests who had no idea what they were sitting on, was the seed of a technology more powerful than anyone in the ancient world could have imagined. What would happen when someone realized that instinct could carry more than the bird itself? The turning point wasn't a single moment. It was a realization that spread, slowly, across empires that desperately needed something humanity had never had, a way to send information faster than a horse could run. Around 3000 BCE, Ancient Egyptian sailors are said to have released pigeons from arriving ships to signal a safe return home, beating the vessel itself to shore. In ancient Persia, and later under the Roman Empire, military commanders began experimenting with something bolder, using pigeons not just to announce arrivals, but to carry actual messages, tiny scrolls bound to a leg, across battlefields and provinces. Julius Caesar reportedly used pigeons to relay news during his campaigns in Gaul. In one of the most famous accounts from antiquity, the Roman general Hirtius and consul Brutus used pigeons to communicate during the siege of Mutina in 43 BC. Messages smuggled past enemy lines not by any soldier, but by a bird flying overhead, invisible to an army staring at the ground. Think about what that meant. For the first time in human history, a message could travel faster than the fastest horse, cross terrain no messenger could safely walk, and do it all without anyone noticing. No checkpoints could stop it. No blockade could catch it. Civilizations that controlled this technology controlled something priceless: information, faster than their enemies. By the time of the Islamic Golden Age, pigeon messaging had become a formal institution. The Caliphate built an organized pigeon post stretching across the Middle East, with dedicated towers, trained handlers, and official record-keeping. Arguably the world's first true long-distance communication network, centuries before the postal systems we'd recognize today. And yet, for all of that, the story of the pigeon as a working animal hadn't even reached its highest stakes. The real drama, the wars, the near misses, the birds that would be remembered by name, was still to come. Fast forward to the 12th century. Sultan Nur ad-Din, ruler of Syria, formalizes something remarkable: a pigeon postal system so extensive it connects cities across his entire territory, with towers built specifically to relay messages bird by bird, city by city, like a living telegraph line made of feathers and instinct. Genghis Khan's Mongol Empire, the largest contiguous land empire in history, is believed to have used pigeon relays to help coordinate communication across its vast reach, a network that helped hold together an empire spanning from China to Eastern Europe. But the story that truly changes how you see this bird forever comes centuries later, from the trenches of the First World War. By 1914, armies had radios. They had telephones. They had, on paper, left the pigeon behind as a relic of an older age. They were wrong. Radio signals could be intercepted. Telephone lines could be cut by a single artillery shell. In the chaos of trench warfare, through mud, smoke, and constant bombardment, commanders discovered something humbling. Their most advanced technology kept failing, and the animal their ancestors used 3,000 years earlier kept working. Both the Allied and Central Powers built entire military pigeon divisions. Tens of thousands of birds were trained, transported in mobile lofts right up to the front lines, and used to carry messages when every other line of communication had been severed. A trained pigeon could cover 50 miles or more, often flying at speeds exceeding 60 miles per hour, through smoke and gunfire, guided by nothing but the same ancient instinct that once got a wild bird home to its cliffside nest. Soldiers who had laughed at the idea of relying on a bird began writing letters home describing pigeons as heroes. And one of them was about to become the most famous animal of the entire war. October 1918. The Argonne Forest, France. Nearly 200 American soldiers of the 77th Infantry Division are surrounded by their own side's artillery. A mapping error has sent friendly fire raining down on them, and the men, trapped between German positions and their own bombardment, are dying with every passing minute. They are cut off. No working radio. No telephone line. No runner could survive the crossing. They have one option left: 3 pigeons carried into battle for exactly this scenario. The first is released. shot out of the sky almost immediately. The second follows. Same fate. There is one bird left. Her name is Cher Ami. The commanding officer, Major Charles Whittlesey, writes a desperate message, seals it in a canister on her leg, and releases her into a sky thick with enemy fire. Cher Ami is hit almost instantly, shot through the breast, blinded in one eye, one leg nearly severed, held on by a single tendon, the message canister dangling from what remains of it. She falls, and then, against everything, she rises again. Wounded, bleeding, barely able to fly straight, Cher Ami covers 25 miles back to division headquarters in under half an hour. She lands. She collapses. But the message is still attached to her leg. The artillery stops. Nearly 200 men, the survivors who would later become known as the Lost Battalion, are saved because one injured bird refused to stop flying. Army medics saved Cher Ami's life, carving her a small wooden leg to replace the one she lost. She was awarded the French Croix de Guerre for her actions, one of the most extraordinary acts of animal heroism ever recorded in wartime. That is the peak of this story, not a metaphor, not folklore. A wounded bird, flying through gunfire, because 10,000 years of instinct told her exactly where home was. It's almost impossible to imagine anything topping a moment like that. But history had one more twist coming, and this time, it wasn't a story of triumph. After the Second World War, something changed that no pigeon, no matter how brave, could outfly. Technology finally caught up. Reliable long-range radio, telephone lines that could stretch across continents, then satellites, then computers, then a device that fits in your pocket and can send a message anywhere on Earth in less than a second. Everything the pigeon had offered humanity for 3,000 years, speed, reliability, the ability to cross distance no other method could match, was suddenly available instantly to everyone, without needing to train a single bird. Military pigeon divisions were quietly disbanded through the 1950s. The last official messenger pigeon service, held by the Swiss Army, wasn't shut down until 1996, a reminder of just how long this ancient partnership actually lasted before it finally ended. And here's the part that stings. It wasn't that the pigeon failed. It never stopped being capable. It never lost the instinct that made it valuable in the first place. Humanity simply built something faster, and once we didn't need the pigeon anymore, we stopped seeing it as a partner at all. The descendants of those war heroes and imperial messengers didn't disappear. They stayed exactly where humans had always kept them, in cities, on rooftops, in the same urban spaces their ancestors had occupied for millennia as working animals. Except now, nobody was giving them jobs. Nobody was feeding them for a purpose. They simply remained. And an animal that once carried the fate of empires quietly became known, instead, for something far less dignified. Look at a pigeon on a city street today, and it's easy to see only the obvious. The strut, the head bob, the slightly too close approach hoping for food. An animal so common we stopped noticing it entirely. But underneath those gray feathers is the exact same bird that once out-navigated Roman scouts, held together the communication lines of the Mongol Empire, and, bleeding, blinded, and missing a leg, saved nearly 200 men in a French forest because she refused to stop flying home. The instinct hasn't gone anywhere. Every pigeon alive today still carries that same extraordinary sense of direction, that same evolutionary gift for finding its way back no matter the distance. We simply stopped asking anything of it. And an animal defined for 10,000 years by its usefulness to us became, almost overnight, an animal we associate with mess and nuisance, not because it changed, but because we did. That's the real tragedy hiding in plain sight on every city street in the world. Not that the pigeon declined, but that we forgot what it once meant, and let an entire history quietly disappear into the background noise of a species we stopped bothering to look at. So, the next time you see a pigeon sitting quietly on a rooftop, watching the street below with that same sharp, ancient awareness its ancestors used to survive on cliffside ledges thousands of years before the first empire was built, remember, you're looking at the descendant of one of history's greatest messengers. An animal that carried messages that saved lives when every other option had failed. A partner we simply stopped calling on. If this kind of forgotten history is something you want more of, you know what to do. Hit subscribe and join us next time as we uncover another story hiding in plain sight.